Tonight, with the feud between the Dangote Refinery management and the Nigeria Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG. The Department of State Services, DSS, has summoned both parties to an urgent meeting over a dispute about workers' rights to union membership. This follows allegations by NUPENG that Dangote breached a pact on September 9, which guarantees workers the freedom to join any union without interference. Dangote denies the claims. The meeting will also include the Nigeria Labour Congress and other stakeholders aiming to resolve tensions which escalated after NUPENG accused Dangote of misrepresenting facts in a recent press release. Professor Izielen Agbon is a petroleum engineering expert and former trade unionist. He joins me now for his take on this lingering feud within the downstream sector. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Just days after the DSS intervention led to some resolution, quite brief. Now they're returning to talks. What do you think led to the breakdown and what will be different this time? I mean, Dangote is denying that they did anything wrong. NUPENG is saying that they're stopping workers from being part of the union. Who is right and who is wrong?
I think Dangote is wrong here. Under the Nigerian Constitution, Nigerian workers, they have the right to unionize. And according to the Section 12 of the Trade Union Act of 1978, junior workers in oil and gas sectors have to belong, or if they want to unionize, they belong to NUPENG. NUPENG is the only authorized union that is allowed to unionize junior workers in the oil and gas sector. So NUPENG now wanted to, when Dangote came on stream, Dangote now insisted, with his cousin, Alhaji Dantata of Mrs. Energy, that bringing in 10,000 truck of CNG truck, the drivers that are hired have to sign an agreement that they will not join NUPENG. Rather, they will become members of a company association that is called the Direct Trucking Company Drivers Association. Company association ended with colonial rule. I mean, that ended in 1978 when under the Trade Union Act, 42 unions were set up for junior workers and 30 unions for senior workers in the oil and gas sector.
Prof, I'm sorry to interject. I want to get something clear. Dangote is saying they're not stopping any worker from joining any association of their choice, and NUPENG is saying that they are. So how are you sure that it is Dangote who is wrong in this instance?
Because the law allows only one entity to organize junior workers.
Okay. And
that entity is NUPENG. So when they set up a company association that's supposed to represent the interests of their drivers of CNG truck, they are setting up a company union that is against the law. It's negating the rights of workers. And so when you say that workers can join any association they like, that's not what the law says. It says if you want to unionize, only NUPENG is allowed to unionize junior oil and gas workers. So what Dangote actually should realize is that this is not the sugar industry. This is not the cement industry. And this is not the flour industry. This is oil and gas. And in oil and gas, you are dealing with junior workers. They become members of NUPENG, especially if they are truck drivers. And we have a lot of problems with truck drivers that are not unionized. One cement Dangote truck driver just killed somebody in Edo State in Auchi the other day. So, Ruta October. We don't want CNG drivers running around non-unionized. So what happened after the MOU was organized by the DSS and signed by Mr. Dantata, who is very anti-union, and NLC and Dangote officials and 3 ministers 3 people from the Ministry of Labor and Economic, as well as somebody from NMD PROA, they all agreed. When NUPENG called off the strike, when they got to Lagos, Mr. Dantata told the NUPENG drivers to pull off the NUPENG stickers in their truck, which shows that the truck is being driven by a NUPENG member, and put in instead the signal of the Direct Trucking Company Driver Association, or they will not be allowed to load. This is where the problem is. Meanwhile, that negates the agreement of September 9, the MOU they signed. The thing about it is that in Nigeria, there is a need for an antitrust law against monopoly and oligopoly. This is one of the things that needs to be done. A law needs to be put in place.
Prof, Dangote has come up to respond to the allegation that it is monopolizing, let me see how they said it, that it operates within regulated market framework under the oversight of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. It also declares that the assertion of monopolistic intent is both legally and factually incorrect. That is on the one hand. On the other hand as well, I wanted to speak to, is all of this over the removal of the sticker? Does the removal of the sticker make the truckers non-unionists? Some clarity on that.
What happened is this. If Dantata or Mrs. Energy, because what happened was Dangote, by law, is giving a permit to do refinery. It's not giving a permit for distribution. So it went to set up with his cousin, Mrs. Energy, because Dangote was trying to set up a Dangote Transport Company, a DTC. When he found that it needed another license and he could not be given that license, he decided to unite with his cousin, Mrs. Energy, and they set up what is called Direct Trucking Company Limited. It's a private company. This is the company that is supposed to run the CNG trucks. Now, in order for you to be hired in that company, you have to sign an agreement you will never join NUPENG. One of the ways to show you are not a NUPENG member is to drive a truck with a stamp, with a signal that shows that you are a member of this association called the Direct Trucking Company Driver Association, which is an illegal association. Dantata, who is Dangote cousin, said this is not a union. But if you do not drive that truck, then they are telling you can't be hired and you cannot load up.
All right, we have some clarity on that. I mean, you've explained a bit as to why that was necessary. But what about the part about the monopolistic tendency? Because I had to bring that up because you've said this prior in our conversation, and you've repeated it today, that they have this monopolistic tendency, and they're saying this is factually incorrect. I want you to speak to that briefly, and then we'll go back to the dispute again.
You remember I told you that those people that were in charge of trucking Dangote's oil petrol, they were in trouble because Dangote was going to operate like an oligopoly and take over distribution. Dangote just put out a signal and a press statement a few days ago that is going to give you free transportation. And therefore, because it will reduce price in Lagos, his truck is going to deliver petrol free. And by giving free transportation, it's going to knock out all the competitors that are in charge of distribution. That's why you have the truck owners associations saying they support NUPENG, and they too have been screaming because Dangote wants to knock them out. So what Dangote wants to do is to sell petrol at $2.10 in Abuja per gallon. $2.10 per gallon. I told you Dangote only cares for Dangote shareholders. Dangote does not care for Dangote driver, CNG driver. Dangote does not care for Nigerian people or Nigerian workers. NUPENG is a union that cares for Nigerian workers. That's what it is.
All right, Prof, I really would love you to continue in that line of thought, but I'm told we are time pressed, and I still have a couple of questions for you. Let's take this one, the consideration of taking this matter to court, because the DSS had intervened before. I'm actually surprised to hear the DSS intervening in this matter, a union dispute between the Dangote and unionists. So is it too much to have a court of law adjudicate and settle this question than the nation's secret police to be the, the one that is trying to meander through an industrial dispute?
This is a very unusual case because under Decree 19 of 1986, NSO was broken into three parts. The SSS or DSS for internal intelligence, domestic intelligence, the NIA for external intelligence, and the DIA for military intelligence. The reason I suspect DSS is involved is because if NUPENG shuts down the distribution of petrol, despite what Dangote say, you are going to have a national crisis. The amount of economic loss you are going to have in a day, because within 3 days, all the reserves in all the petrol stations will dry up if NUPENG decides no distribution. Within 3 days, you are going to have shortages, you are going to have lines, you are going to have food that cannot be brought to urban area, people who cannot travel. You are going to have long lines in petrol stations. So this is going to create a national crisis. So DSS, which surprises me, that is supposed to be in charge of domestic intelligence, have intelligence that Dantata is operating contrary to the law, and so advised Dantata during the September 9 meeting in his office. And so informed Dangote and Dantata. So
Prof,
there's no question of going to court because...
I mean, this matter seems really complex. I'm sorry to interject, but we're out of time for this conversation. But the obvious importance of this dispute being resolved as quickly as possible has been, emphasized by you tonight. Thank you for always obliging us when we call.
Thank you very much.